Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to Emergency Management Associates, coming to you from the Area Command 392 miles west of Kitty Hawk Beach, North Carolina. We want to welcome everybody to our program tonight and thank you for being here. As we've been doing for quite some time, we're going to start off this evening with the Pledge of Allegiance and the United States National Anthem. I would ask everyone to please rise.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now would you make welcome, straight from Washington, D.C., the United States Army Corps Quartet.
Yeah.
Oh, say can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Oh yeah! Come on, folks, let them know it.
America's finest, the United States Army Barbershop Quartet, coming to us from the Barbershop Quartet Convention in 2015. The host of the Barbershop Quartet Convention gave us the National Pledge of Allegiance, and we appreciate that very much. God bless these fine men and women in our armed forces for all that they do for us. And it doesn't matter which branch of the armed forces that you're in. We appreciate you, and we want to thank you for your service, and also our allied men and women, wherever they might be. Men and women in our world's countries have armed forces. God bless them all. Bless our armed forces around the world, wherever they might be, that after their tours of duty end, they may return home to their families in safety. God bless them all, and thank you for your service, guys and gals. We appreciate it. Folks, I'm almost not even sure where to begin tonight. I know what is important, but there are a couple things that are very, very, very important tonight. The first thing I'm going to talk to you about is a 7.4 magnitude earthquake. USGS has it as a 7.1. Volcano Discovery came out as a 7.4. This is a big deal tonight. This is just north and east of Java, Indonesia. Bali, Indonesia. We've seen earthquakes out in this area before. We have not had an earthquake here in quite some time. This is a major 7.4 earthquake. Okay, I can't tell you how important this is. Okay, as I've explained before, the area of Indonesia, Australia south of there, going out to the islands to the east. I'm talking about Papua New Guinea. I'm talking about Samoa. I'm talking about Tonga. I'm talking about Vanuatu, the Solomon Islands, and New Zealand, and the Philippines to the north, all the way north and west to Taiwan. It's a major, major, major subduction zone, a huge subduction zone. 7 different plates subducting under each other. The last time we had a major earthquake like this, there were a lot of earthquakes, not just aftershocks. So we're going to see where this goes tonight. We already have had some very large earthquakes. I'm talking 5.8, 5.9. We've had some 6.2s and 6.3 aftershocks as well. We're going to see where this takes us before probably the end of the night. I want to show you something else that I think you ought to see. Heliplots. Let's look at heliplots here. Folks, this heliplot here, this is from Davao, Philippines to the north. You can see the earthquakes that hit this area. Okay? You can see all of the earthquakes that hit this area. Not all of these heliplots around the world, not all of the seismograms are going to show such strength of the earthquake. This was a 7.4 major earthquake down there, just north and east of Java, Indonesia, near Bali, Indonesia. Okay? This was also 100 miles from shore. This was 100 miles from shore. This is at Casey, Antarctica. This is how it shows up south of Indonesia. This is several thousand miles. I can't say several. This is at least 2,000 miles south of Indonesia. Okay? I'm going to show you a couple others. This one is on the north side of the world. This is in the Aleutian Islands of Alaska. This is how it shows up there. Maybe with 3 7.4 earthquakes. As we got closer, like I said, over in the Philippines, we had nearly a quarter of the heliplot almost blacked out. Let's show you another one in College Outpost, Alaska. This is central Alaska. It's not quite as vivid as it was over in the Philippines and down in Antarctica. But this was a very large earthquake. Very major earthquake. Now, what I want to tell you about this earthquake, okay? I don't believe it's over yet. This could end up being a stronger earthquake. 5 to 7% of all earthquakes are foreshocks. So we're standing by to see if we have another major earthquake here, much larger than this. It could happen. Now, as I stated, it's 100 miles north of Bali. I believe this will have implications on people in that area. Now, while this was a major earthquake, this was also a deep earthquake. 500 kilometers deep. 500 kilometers deep. That is a very deep earthquake. Now, in looking at that, let me take this map of this earthquake down. While we look at that, let's think about depth to magnitude. 525 kilometers deep. Okay? This means we need to add a 1.05. Do you see what I'm looking at here? Nearly in the middle, closer to the top of this graph here. This is 525, and then you look just to the right of there, and it says 1.05. So we're going to add a 1.05 to that earthquake. So folks, what we're talking about now is an 8.2 major earthquake. Anywhere from an 8.2 to an 8.7. 1.05. We may have as much as a 8.2 to an 8.7 magnitude earthquake that's going to happen as a result of this earthquake. We need to remember what we've learned about earthquakes over the last 7 to 10 years. These deep earthquakes propagate larger, shallower quakes. So we may see anywhere from an 8.2 to an 8.7 major earthquake either in this area around Indonesia. Let me bring this up again so you can see it. Either in this area of Indonesia or west of here. It could still be in western Indonesia. It could also be around Sumatra. It could also be in Thailand or Vietnam. Or it could go east. If it goes east, it could go over into Papua New Guinea. It could go over into the Solomon Islands, the Vanuatu area. It could go over in Tonga and Samoa. It could go south into Australia. It could go north into Hawaii or even into Alaska. We've seen strange earthquake movements before. This is another one that we're going to wait to see what happens. Okay? Aubrey's asking, is this where the 7 plates meet? Yes. Okay? Let me go over to a different map here. Let me show you a different map here. I'm going to keep my picture up here. Hold on a second. Let me move me over here. See where that major earthquake hit today? 7.4 earthquake. Again, USGS says this is a 7.1. I just showed you some heliplots, and to me, this is a much larger earthquake than they said it was. Tomas is talking about a 2.7 over on the Big Island of Hawaii. Not surprising. Okay? We may be talking about Hawaii again in a few minutes. But this is going to see where we're going here. Okay? It could go over into more of Indonesia here. You could go north here. Right up in here. It could go over here into the Philippines here. Where today we have a 5.4 near Kepulauan Talud, Indonesia. Okay? A 5.4 large earthquake. It was a very shallow earthquake, 27 kilometers deep, actually 27 miles deep. Okay? But that 7.4 energy could come up here. Okay? Or like I said, it could go over here to Taiwan. It could go over here into Thailand, Vietnam, Myanmar, Indonesia, or not Indonesia, India here. Go into China even. Or it could go down here into Australia. We've been seeing a lot of earthquakes down here in Australia. Most of those earthquakes are 2s and 3s. We've seen a 5 and we've seen a 6.9 over in southeastern Australia here about a year or so ago. So that seismic energy could go down here in Australia. It could also go south and east over here into New Zealand. Now, while USGS is not showing you earthquakes here in New Zealand, there are about 20 earthquakes here in New Zealand today, on the South and the North Island here. Now, just so you know, those of you that are new to this show, guess what this is over in New Zealand? Yes, it looks like a lake, doesn't it? This is Taupo Lake. Taupo Lake is a volcano, a super volcano in New Zealand. Yes, we could have a 7.4 earthquake here. It is possible. It is possible. Just north of mainland New Zealand, we have the Kermadec Islands. We have the Kermadec Islands. We've seen a lot of 5s here recently in the Kermadec Islands. We've even seen a 6 or 2. Folks, 3 years ago, and I reported on it on our other channel that we used to be on YouTube with, and somebody hacked into it. They took it down. But I reported on all the earthquakes here in the Kermadec Islands. Yes, they were 7.4, 7.6, 7.2, all over the place. Those very strong major earthquakes hit here in the Kermadec Islands over the space of maybe a week, week and a half. Very strong major earthquakes here in the Kermadec Islands. So it could go over here as well. And like I said, over in the Fiji and Tonga. Here in the Fiji region, we have a 4.1 moderate earthquake. This is also 380 miles deep. 380 miles deep. This is also a very deep earthquake. This earthquake could also spawn a 5.2 earthquake. This could spawn a 5.2 earthquake very easily. Okay? Deep earthquakes can do that. A 5.2, 5.3 would be a large earthquake. Okay? The seismic energy doesn't have to stop there. It could go over here to Chile. Kimberly Hopkins just gave us another $5 super chat. Thanks, Kim. We appreciate that. God bless you for that. Now, folks, USGS is only showing us a handful of earthquakes here in South America. 3 over here in northern Chile. Okay? A 4.1, 65 miles deep. These earthquakes over here, just offshore here. 4.3 near Pacoca, Peru here. And one other one was a large 5.0 here. This hit just after midnight this morning. A large 5.0 earthquake offshore from Peru this morning. north of there. A 4.3, again, onshore here. Onshore, near the beach area of Peru. 3 miles northeast of El Cardo, Peru. Okay? Now, I have not visited where this earthquake hit. Okay? Look where it is. Right next to a river. Rivers are often earthquake faults. So this may be on an earthquake fault here. 63 miles deep. Okay? If anybody felt this, this is just moderate shaking. Moderate shaking. Like I said, if you had some pictures on the wall, they might get tipped sideways or fall off the wall. Knickknacks and books might fall off of bookshelves. That's all. Rattling dishes and plates and glasses in your kitchen cabinets. That's all. Just moderate shaking. Okay? They're showing us one other earthquake here in Colombia today. This is a 4.3 earthquake here in Colombia. This is the northern part of the Andes Mountains here. 4.3 earthquake, also 68 miles deep. Okay? So that 7.4 in Indonesia could come over here to southern Chile or Argentina. It could. We've seen it happen before. Now USGS is only showing these few earthquakes here. Just a handful of earthquakes. Folks, there are probably 25 earthquakes here in South America today. They are lying through their teeth. And they get away with it because they warned us on the USGS earthquake pages. The back seismologist study page says that they only put up earthquakes that they find out about. I'm sorry guys, the EMSC, the European agency, shows almost all earthquakes. Almost all earthquakes. USGS doesn't even get anywhere close to it. Okay? Over here in Central America, a 4.2 in Costa Rica, 6.2 miles deep, 10 kilometers deep. North of here is a 4.3. This is 40 miles deep. Probably close to 60 kilometers deep. We go north of there. All of a sudden we're in southern Mexico. This earthquake just happened. This is another 5.0 earthquake. USGS has it at 4.9. I never trust anything 0.9. If it comes up a 0.9, it's usually a grade higher than that. This is a 5.0 earthquake, 36 miles deep. A large earthquake over here in Oaxaca, Mexico. A large earthquake. This is going to do damage. Look where it's located. Look where it's located. Along a river. Along a river. Probably an arterial from another seismic fault to the north that I showed you. Rivers are usually the top of an earthquake fault. And to the north, there's a larger fault right there. Okay? Just so you know. But folks, anywhere, anybody that lives in this area, they probably felt this earthquake. Large 5.0 earthquake is going to be a shaker. If anybody lives anywhere near this earthquake, they're going to feel some good shaking. Okay? Almost guaranteed. Now there's villages all over the place, and I'm not sure we can even get close to those, very close to those right here. It looks like I found a small town or a city here. Okay? Let's look here. It's just south of that earthquake. So people in that area are going to feel that, or they did feel it. We're going to wait and see whether we have any other aftershocks or foreshocks of that large earthquake here just a little while ago. Okay? Now, let's go over here and identify another earthquake in the Cascadia region today. Over here just west of the Gorda Ridge. The Gorda Ridge is that earthquake fault that runs off the Gorda Escarpment to the south of there. The Gorda Ridge runs north here. Okay? This is a 2.8 just west of the Gorda Ridge. Right on the Gorda Ridge here, we have another 2.8 here. Both of these earthquakes were west of Port Orford, Washington. Or I'm not Washington, Port Orford, Oregon. Port Orford, Oregon. Folks, these earthquakes here, they are minor earthquakes. However, they are in the Cascadia subduction zone region. The Cascadia subduction zone region to the south. Again, this is just part of the game that these earthquakes play with us. There's a much larger earthquake that's going to happen. A much larger earthquake. A very major earthquake. Some scientists believe it will be as large as an 8. We are saying it's going to probably be a 9.0 to a 10.0 Cascadia megathrust earthquake. Okay? But these are just minor earthquakes over here in the southern part of the Cascadia subduction zone region. Just so you know. Okay? Now, I want to take you across the nation here. Across the United States. There's something else that you need to know what's going on here. Right here. For the most part, folks, this is Haiti. To the east is the Dominican Republic. Right now, today, we have a tropical storm here. This is blowing at winds of 74 miles per hour continuous. Continuous. 74 miles per hour. It's just shy of hurricane strength of 75 plus miles per hour. This is Hurricane Idalia. Hurricane Idalia is down here in Haiti right now. A lot of people live in Haiti. A lot of people live there that don't have much. And they're going through a hurricane as we speak. Now, I have some pictures to share with you. What exactly is going on there? This is serious. I have been monitoring this for at least a week. We saw it as a tropical depression way down southeast of here. Way down southeast in the Atlantic Ocean. It's moved into the Caribbean. It's going to leave the Caribbean any minute. It's going to start its process of moving north into the Gulf of Mexico, into the warmer waters of the Gulf. Now, you don't see too much of an eye right now. Like I said, this is a weak hurricane at best. It's a tropical storm right now. It is slated to become a hurricane literally any minute now. It's over down on the western side of Haiti. It's moving north. And it's going to move north rather rapidly now. As you can see from this storm track zone of uncertainty, it's called the cone of uncertainty. Okay? Right now, the spaghetti models, they call them spaghetti models. Computer models say that this hurricane is going literally all over the place, or will go all over the place. It go further west and a little bit south, which means Central Florida would get nailed if that were the case. Right now, it's scheduled to hit just north of Tampa Bay, Florida, by probably Tuesday night, Wednesday morning. Tuesday night, Wednesday morning. Then it will lose strength. By the time it reaches here to the Florida area, this could be a Category 3 storm with winds of 120 miles per hour. A Category 3 hurricane. When it goes over land, it starts reducing its strength. It could still be a Category 1, 75 mile per hour storm. It'll move over into northern Florida and cross over into Georgia. Then it will only be over land for a short time. Then it's going to go back out into the Atlantic Ocean, where it's going to still be in warm water, and it will probably gain some kind of strength. As it leaves Georgia, going over the coast of Georgia, it's going to skirt South Carolina and North Carolina. As this hits, as it hits in Florida, there's going to be a storm surge and high waves. A storm surge and high waves. Those waves could reach upwards of 7 feet high. A storm surge of 7 feet high. When it gets over to Georgia off the coast, there's still going to be wind waves, there's still going to be a storm surge. Coastal areas in Georgia, South and North Carolina are going to feel the wrath of this storm. Because, folks, it's not just here. It's not just off the coast of Florida. It's not just off the coast of Georgia, South and North Carolina. The outer bands of the rain, outer bands of the hurricane, are going to pelt the area along the coast. So we could see rain, heavy rain, continuing up in through Florida, Georgia, South and North Carolina, and I'm saying the entire state. Each individual state, because of the outer bands of the hurricane. Okay? As it leaves North Carolina, it's going back out into the Atlantic Ocean, where it's probably going to dissolve as it gets out into the cooler waters of the Atlantic. It'll disappear and just become a tropical depression more than likely. But right here along the coast, it could be Category 1, maybe close to Category 2 hurricane strength. Everybody needs to be prepared for the winds, the rains, the heavy rains, all that floodwater, and the storm surge as well. People on the coast need to be prepared. We've seen what this has done in the past. We've seen Hurricane Ida. We've seen several other hurricanes that have come through. Even during my time here in North Carolina, we've seen several, at least 2 or 3 hurricanes that came through here. Everybody needs to know what's going on. Okay? Now I've told you more about that. The National Hurricane Center has upped the intensity forecast for landfall. Tampa Bay area and north. 120 maximum sustained winds. Category 3. 120-hour maximum sustained winds now forecast. Idalia is expected to become a hurricane tonight and rapidly intensify up until landfall in northwest Florida. Significant storm surge event likely along the Gulf Coast of Florida, near and right of the center of the storm. Now you see the forecast positions here, longitude and latitude here. I'm leaving this up for a minute so people can write things down here. You can figure this up for yourself on the maps you have on the internet. You can see where it's going to hit and what it's going to do. Okay? I wanted to show you that. This is not going to be pretty. Over here on the eastern side of the United States, this will be our beginning toast of the hurricane season. It's not going to be pretty. Idalia today is down, like I said, over the area of western Haiti. As it comes into the Gulf of Mexico, into the warmer waters, which are close to 90 plus degrees, actually they're over 90 plus degrees, it's going to gain strength to hurricane strength, 120 mile, hurricane 3 strength, 120 miles per hour. And it's going to go through land where it's going to reduce in power. When hurricanes go over land, they decrease in strength. But as soon as they have any water, they reinvigorate themselves and become strong again. That's why I want to put out the warning for the coastal areas of Georgia, South Carolina, and North Carolina. And like I said, it's not just where the center of the storm is. It's going to be the outer band winds you're going to have to deal with. These outer band winds, ladies and gentlemen, can throw you tornadoes and severe thunderstorms. Tornadoes and severe thunderstorms. Even where I live. We are going to be monitoring this storm very closely in the days to come to see where we're at, to see what's happening. Because what is going to happen in Florida, we're going to see what is going to happen here on the east coast of North America. So we wanted to show you this so you too can be ready for what is happening. Okay? Now, 4 a.m. this morning, Idalia was then forecast to become a major hurricane before it reaches the Gulf Coast of Florida. It will do that. It will become a Category 1 storm at least tonight. The risk continues to increase for life-threatening storm surge. And the west coast of Florida and the Florida Panhandle beginning as early as late Tuesday night, tomorrow night. Storm surge and hurricane watches are in effect for portions of the west coast of Florida and the coast of the Florida Panhandle, and residents in these areas should consider and should monitor updates in the forecast area and follow any advice given by local officials. Areas of flash and urban flooding, some of which may be locally significant, are expected across the portions of the west coast of Florida, the Florida Panhandle, the southern Georgia area Tuesday into Wednesday, spreading into portions of the eastern Carolinas Wednesday into Thursday. Hurricane force winds are expected across portions of western Cuba later today. Heavy rainfall is also expected across portions of western Cuba and may produce areas of flash and urban flooding as well as landslides across western Cuba. That is what's happening right now. And that's exactly what we have seen happen with past hurricanes. All I'm saying now is get ready. Make sure you are ready for whatever happens. This is not going to be your average storm. This is going to be a major endeavor. Now, there's also a hurricane off the coast of the United States right now. It's out there, but it's not going to do anything but spin out of control in the middle of the water. That is all it's going to do. Then it'll fizzle out in the colder waters of the Atlantic as it moves north. Not anything to worry about at the present time. As we go through this week, we will be monitoring these storms, and we will be on the air to tell you what is happening when things start getting rough. I plan on staying on the air, as is our friend Ryan. Those of you that have been following me for quite some time, you've heard of Ryan Hall-y'all. Ryan Hall-y'all. Y-A''L-L. Ryan Hall-y'all here on YouTube. He's one of the best meteorologists that there ever will be. He's better than any local television meteorologist, except for maybe a handful. But this man knows his stuff. And I encourage you to monitor his channel, because he's going to give you the expert weather advice. Ryan Hall-y'all. Okay? Please follow him as well. Folks, already, just like we saw in San Diego last week when San Diego was getting hit with Hurricane Hillary, people are already loading their sandbags and getting ready to sandbag their homes tonight, because that hurricane could start hitting Florida Tuesday night into Wednesday morning. So people are already sandbagging. If you live in Florida, you can get sandbags from your fire station. You may also be able to get sand from Home Depot and Lowe's. Okay? Sand and sandbags can be had from your fire stations. Okay? So now you've got that to worry about too. Making sure you're boarded up. Making sure you have sandbags to keep water from coming into your homes. Make sure you and your children are prepared. Now, I spent a good deal of today looking at videos. Yes, there's several hurricane videos, and I will probably come on the air sometime during the day tomorrow to show you a hurricane preparatory kit, a hurricane kit. Okay? You need to start getting things ready now. And I'm talking flashlights, batteries, flashlights and batteries. making sure you have food, non-perishable food, non-perishable food. Make sure you have a can opener and or cans that you can flip up the top and pull it open. Sometimes those don't always work, so you're going to have a can opener. Make sure you have clothes. Make sure you have clothes ready in case you have to bug out. Sometimes you have to leave. You can't stay in your home because it's flooded. Make sure you have adequate supplies to go. Make sure your car is in good condition. Make sure it's ready to travel in case you have to leave your home. Okay? I've told people this before. Some people listen, some people don't. I want you all to be vigilant. That is the biggest story here. You need to be vigilant. I've talked about hurricanes before. This is not anything new to me. But for some of you, it might be. I'm trying to give you information that you're going to need, because this is not going to be fun at all. Tropical storm Idalia is still growing, and it continues to grow in strength, expected to become a hurricane anytime, literally any minute. Right before going on the air, I spoke on text with Hurricane Heather. She fully expected Hurricane Idalia to be a hurricane before now, long before now. But as it becomes a hurricane, it's going to continue to threaten people. And it's going to threaten people on Florida's Gulf Coast and maybe parts of Alabama as well. In the coming days, it's going to threaten us with life-threatening storm surge. High water, waves up to 7 feet high. Dangerous winds. According to the latest forecast from the National Hurricane Center, it's going to be a mean storm. Governor Santos yesterday expanded his executive order declaring a state of emergency in 46 counties, up from 33 on Saturday. In Central Florida, it now includes Seminole, Lake, Volusia counties, but not Orange or Acelio, or Celoa. I can never say the name of that town. It includes through Metro Orlando, and it's not predicted to bear the storm's brunt right now. It could, but it's not expected to. The signs of the coming storm were clear today. Local governments set up sandbag sites. Grocery stores stacked bottled water and other supplies. School districts canceled after-school activities, and city and county officials urged residents to make preparations. With Tropical Storm Idalia barreling toward Florida's Gulf Coast, expected to bring at least some strong gusts of wind and rain to Central Florida. Cities and counties have been set up for sandbag stations. They're keeping a close eye, and they're putting shifts in east of the track of the storm, which could bring more severe conditions to our doorstep. DeSantis submitted a request Sunday night to President Biden at the White House. Biden today approved that state of emergency request for an emergency declaration. That will give Florida federal assistance responding to the storm. At a briefing in Tallahassee today, DeSantis urged all Floridians to prepare for a dangerous storm. We've got to stop focusing on the cone. I showed you the cone of the storm. Let me bring that up again. I think you might want to see that. Let me show you the cone of the storm again. There it is again. One of the things you want to remember here, guys, is a storm could pull outside of where you see this storm track. The cone of uncertainty. That's why they call it that. It's only a possibility that the hurricane will follow this storm track. It could go west of there. It could go south of there. It could even go north of there and fully hit the panhandle of Florida and Alabama, and while Georgia in the process. This storm is going to be a mean one. Don't focus on the cone. Look at all the areas that could be affected. Like I talked about a minute ago, those outer band winds are going to be mean. The outer band winds are going to carry those big thunderstorms, and they can spin off tornadoes as well. Okay? Governor DeSantis said that, noting the forecast for hurricane has kept changing. The forecast for Ian has kept changing and shifting further southward in the days before the storm made landfall last year. Remember Ian? Devastating the Gulf Coast? DeSantis said you have time today, and you know what you need to do. In the 2 p.m. advisory that I picked up from the National Weather Service today, the National Hurricane Center said Idalia had sustained winds of 70 miles per hour with higher gusts and was located at about 50 miles south-southwest of the western tip of Cuba, heading north at 8 miles per hour. Its tropical storm force winds extend out 140 miles from the center. Like I said, it's those outer band winds that we're going to have problems with. Even if you don't get hit by the center eye of the hurricane, you have to be knowing that those outer band winds could still hit you, and hit you hard. A northward approach is expected through tonight, followed by a faster north-northeast motion on Tuesday, tomorrow, and on Wednesday as well. The NHC, the National Hurricane Center, says the forecast track the center of Idalia is forecast to pass near or over western Cuba tonight, over the southeastern Gulf of Mexico by early Tuesday, and reach the Gulf Coast of Florida on Wednesday morning. Already Monday, officials in Pasco and Pinellas counties on Florida's west coast issued evacuation orders for some of the residents, including those living in mobile homes and RVs, or those who are living in low-lying and flood-prone areas. The counties under DeSantis' emergency order are Alachua, Alachua, or maybe it's Alachua, Baker Bay, Bradford, Calhoun County, Charlotte, Citrus, Clay, Collier, Columbia, DeSoto County, Dixie, Duval, Flagler, Franklin, Gadsden, Gilchrist, Gulf, Hamilton, Hardee, Hernando, Hillsborough, Lake, Jefferson, Lafayette, Lee, Leon, Levy, Liberty, Madison, Manatee County, Marion, Pasco, Pinellas, Polk, Putnam, Nassau, Sarasota, Seminole, St. John's, Sumter, Suwannee, Taylor, Union, Volusia, Wakulla counties. A hurricane warning is in place for Pinar del Rio, Cuba, as well as the middle of Longboat Key northward to the Okalakoni River, including Tampa Bay. A tropical storm warning is in effect for the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico, from Tulum to Rio Gardos, including Cozumel, the Isle of Youth, Cuba, and in Florida, the Dry Tortugas Islands, Chocolocni, northward to the middle of Longboat Key, and the Okalakoni River westward to Indian Pass. A hurricane watch is in effect from Inglewood to the middle of Longboat Key, and from west of the Okalakoni River to Indian Pass. A tropical storm warning is in effect for Longboat Key, south to Cholocony River and westward to Indian Pass. And a tropical storm watch is in place for the lower Florida Keys. A tropical storm watch is in effect for the lower Florida Keys. And the storm watch includes 7 Mile Bridge from Sebastian Inlet to Altamaha Sound, Georgia. A storm warning is in effect from Inglewood northward to Okalokoni River, including Tampa Bay. Storm surge was the driving force that led to the deadly effects of last year's Hurricane Ian that made landfall in southwest Florida. The National Hurricane Center forecast surge could be from 7 to 11 feet high. From 7 to 11 feet higher than normal for Florida's Gulf Coast. And from Aquila River, Tallahassee, south to Chassahowitzka, Chassahowitzka, south to Anaclody River near Tarpon Springs, and a 4 to 7 foot from the Anaclody River south to Longboat Key. That's a high storm surge. Smaller storm surge is expected further south in the southwestern Florida and the Florida Keys, as well as farther north and west along the Florida Panhandle. The deepest water will occur along the immediate coast and areas of onshore winds where the storm surge will be accompanied by large and dangerous waves. Storm surge related flooding depends on the relative timing of the surge and the tidal cycle as well, and they can vary greatly over short distances, according to the forecasts. In anticipation of Idalia's landfall, the Florida Department of Environmental Protection has closed 65 state parks along the western portion of the state's peninsula and in North Florida. Those destinations vary from Caladesi Island State Park to Pinellas County to Big Shoals State Park, Columbia, which is nearly in the projected path of the storm. Also closed are Cedar Key Museum State Park in Levy County, Devil's Mill Hopper Geological State Park in Alachua County, and Rainbow Springs State Park in Marion County. Did you copy all that? Closed are Cedar Key Museum State Park in Levy County, Devil's Mill Hopper Geological State Park in Alachua County, and Rainbow Springs State Park in Marion County. If you need further information, go to floridastateparks.org/storm updates for a full list of closures. The Florida Department of Transportation is securing the massive construction project it has along the Howard Franklin Bridge between Tampa and St. Petersburg across Tampa Bay. The St. John's River Water Management District is preparing for the northern half of its 18-county jurisdiction to be in the path of Idalia as a Category 1 hurricane, bringing high wind and moderate rainfall. Now this area, guys, they believe it's going to be a Category 1 because it will have gone over land by that time. The district has partially activated its Emergency Operations Center, but as of noon today, it has not closed its parks and recreational lands. Unlike Ian, Idalia is expected to move quicker over the state, but rainfall totals could still bring 4 to 8 inches, with some areas getting as much as 12 inches during the time that this storm hits western Florida, and across some ports of Florida's west coast and the Florida Panhandle as well, around southeast Georgia and eastern Carolinas. That could lead to urban and flash flooding. Central Florida's Sun Rail commuter rail service will be shut down beginning tomorrow morning, Tuesday, in anticipation of stormy weather. The passenger train runs 61 miles from DeBary in Volusia County through Seminole and Orange counties and into Osceola County south of Kissimmee. Suspending service is a lengthy task of securing gate arms at 126 road crossings and storing Sunrail trains as well. Resuming passenger service also requires considerable effort, including inspection of track conditions, and then going through and making sure the gate arms at road crossings are operational. John Pendergrast, I spoke with earlier today. He's a forecaster for the National Weather Service in Melbourne, Florida. He said Central Florida will start to feel Tropical Storm Idalia's effects on Tuesday and Wednesday. For Central Florida, that means we're going to have a threat of some heavy rain, squall conditions. So when we say that, gusts of wind will be possibly the tropical storm force of 35 to 45 miles per hour, and squalls especially on Wednesday. Pendergrast told us that the region also may face the possibility of tornadoes. Just like I said earlier, tornadoes that spin off of the outer bands of the hurricane. He says, when we've had similar systems pass west of the area, we had tornadoes at times occur in Central Florida. Central Florida residents should start making hurricane preparations and secure loose items outside of their homes and prepare for possible local flooding. Pendergrast told me that he agreed that residents should remain vigilant and understand that the track and intensity of the storm could change at any moment. He said even small deviations of the hurricane track could bring higher effects to the area. So, he said, we're not firmly set on the hurricane track as of yet, nor the intensity of the storm. Now that's a lot of work. That's a lot of work. Does anybody have any questions about Hurricane Idalia? This is going to be a calamity of sorts. Don Patoka says during any calamity, Murphy's Law always applies. If it can, it will go wrong. It always does. Hurricane Heather says this: ponder the what ifs. Ponder the what ifs. She says stay out of the water, fam. I'm urging everybody from Florida north into Alabama, Georgia, South and North Carolina, and even Virginia. Stay out of the water. The storm surges are one thing. The rip currents are an entirely different animal. I've been caught in rip currents before. It's not fun. You swim for a very long time until the rip lets you go. You swim parallel to the shore until the rip lets you go. It's not fun. Stay out of the water. Rebecca NCWQ is here. NCWQ Explorer, too far away from the ocean. Hurricane Heather, thank goodness, in North Carolina. Both Rebecca and I are far inland. But like I said, it could be the outer bands of the hurricane that will bring us high winds, could bring us heavy-duty thunderstorms and rain, as well as possibility of tornadoes. The outer bands of the hurricane are something that you should think about. I'm not necessarily going to say worried about, but you're going to probably worry anyway. It's something you should be concerned about, plain and simple. Rebecca says, if ever stuck in one, swim with it, not against it. Swim parallel to shore if caught in a rip current. Okay? KDODXN says, I think it may track a little northwest of the current track because of the deviations associated with CH4 and NO3. You're probably right. I think you're probably right. Rebecca says, we live at Cape Fear River to worry about in North Carolina, and I live in Morganton in the foothills of the Blue Ridge Mountains. Bridget Smith says, I would like to get out and pound for gold. Oh, that would be a kick. That would be so fun. That would be so fun. Does anybody have any questions about either Hurricane Idalia or even the 7.4 earthquake that we just had in Indonesia? Because I'm not done here yet. Does anybody have any other questions here? I still have a few things to talk about here. Rebecca says, Ron, I think Franklin will pull Idalia out to Atlantic sooner. It's possible. Franklin is off the coast of North America right now, off the coast of the United States. He's out in the middle of the Atlantic. And yes, again, the outer bands of the storm, are always swirling. And as they swirl, they can pull in air from a long distance away, including pulling Idalia out sooner, more sooner than later. It could happen. We just don't know. KDO DXN is asking, what is the death toll in Indonesia? We don't know yet. We don't know yet. That earthquake hit just 5 hours ago. We don't have any current information. Like I said, it hit just north and east of Java. Those other other islands there around Bali area are what I'm worried about. There was no tsunami, by the way. There was absolutely no tsunami at all. I noticed that right off the bat, right as soon as I heard about it. NOAA, the National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Administration, came out right away and said there is no tsunami warning issued at all. Mike Stolte is asking, is there any positive news? Yes. So far, we haven't heard of anybody getting killed or the damage yet. I know there's probably going to be damage, at least along the shoreline of some of these islands, including Bali. Okay? We just don't know yet. Okay? Positive news, the sun will come up tomorrow. Okay? The sun will come up tomorrow. Hurricane Heather says, God is good all the time. That's another good news. Space Force Alice saying, was it 2 earthquakes in Indonesia? Yes. The first one was a 6.9, 7.0. And it happened just before the 7.4 rolled in. There was a 6.9, 7.0. Then the big one rolled in as a 7.4. And USGS has it as a 7.1. They don't even have the 6.9 on their map, which is sad. Okay? There was a 6.9 that came, and then the 7.1 a little, or 7.4 a little bit later. And USGS again will deny there was a 7.4. But if you look at the data, if you look at the data sheets, the helioplots, you're going to quickly understand that it was a larger earthquake than what they said. I believe that it's probably the 7.4 that we have it pegged for. Okay? Richard Smith says, I can't find weather on shortwave in Nova Scotia anymore. They may have taken that down in Nova Scotia. I heard rumor about 3 months ago that they were going to take that weather station down, and they may have. That would be bad. We have a lot of fishermen out of Nova Scotia and out of that whole area up there. So that would be very bad. Other good news, I don't believe we have any current fires in Nova Scotia area. The fires in southwestern Canada are still going. Some say that it even has gotten worse. The fires in Oregon and Washington have not gotten any worse, but I don't think they've gotten any better either. Let me check something real quick. I have sources for all this stuff here. It may take longer than I thought to find it. Let's see here. Okay, let's check in this here. If any of you have been following the reporter over in Oregon that was attacked by Antifa, this may be some good news for those of you who are trying to cheer him on. Andy Ngo, his last name is NGO. Andy Ngo scored a legal victory over the Portland Antifa people as a judge awarded him $300,000 in damages for alleged assaults by Rose City Antifa at a 2019 protest. You all heard it. You all saw what happened on your televisions. It was well publicized. Antifa literally tore Oregon and Washington to pieces and large sections of Los Angeles as well. And they tried to go tear other places apart, and they couldn't because the people living in those smaller cities told Antifa to take a flying leap. So Antifa had no power in those smaller cities, and they're not going to ever have power here where I live. Okay? Not going to happen. Tomas says we have a new 3.6 East New Zealand. East New Zealand. That's kind of typical for that area too. Wildfire area. Okay? Let's look here. Level 3 go now evacuations for south of Salem. South of Salem, Oregon. A level 3 go now evacuation has been issued for fires south of Salem. That was last week. Canceled that. That was last Wednesday. Okay, let's see here. I've been following these fires and I get updates on everything almost on a daily basis. And somehow, when I check back in here, it put me at the middle of last week. As of 2 days ago, on Saturday, the Umpqua National Forest, lightning that passed through Oregon the night of August 24th left a mark on Umpqua National Forest. Currently, there are 11 fires and 2 smoke reports, with resources being assigned as they become available. The region is feeling a shortage of resources, and these new fires being staffed based on values that are at risk and the potential for growth. Lightning caused fires. The Chilcote fire is estimated at 250 acres, is located in the Umpqua National Forest in Steamboat Creek and Canton Creek areas. Douglas Forest Protective Association and local homeowners are working in close coordination. Umpqua National Forest has 2 engines, 2 hand crew squads, and 1 water tender, and a falling module, and a dozer, and miscellaneous overhead air crews. A Type 2 incident management team has been ordered. Aviation resources have also been ordered. The Ridge Fire is estimated at 150 acres plus near Bear Camp Creek. The fire entered the Boulder Creek Wilderness Saturday. 2 crews, 2 squads, overhead assists, and task force leaders are on scene. The Dinner Fire was at 150 acres Saturday, located near Dinner Creek and Hollow Meadows Road. The Wyatt Fire, previously Bryce Fire, was at 30 acres located near Noonday Ridge. Helicopter reconnaissance occurred yesterday. The Bohemia Fire was less than an acre on private land and was contained. 1 engine was on scene and stayed on scene overnight into Sunday. The Watson Creek Fire was less than an acre near Cocatee Airstrip and southeast Watson Falls. 1 incident commander was on scene and a falling module has been ordered. The Timber Knoll Fire is located west of Forest Service Road 5050 and is less than an acre. Falling module was on scene yesterday. 3 engines were en route. The Prather Fire was a 10-acre fire east of Prather Creek and 2 miles north of Lane Creek Works Center. 2 loads of repellers were on scene. A Type 6 engine company and a 20-person crew from Northwest Department of Forestry were on scene as well. The Bryce Creek Fire was at 60 acres and spreading. 1 engine and a Type 1 helicopter on scene yesterday. The Snow Park Fire was an acre. I believe that's out now as well. The Hill Fire is currently contained and was under 1 acre. I believe that's out. There's no closures on the forest, but the public is asked to avoid active areas. More information can be found at wildwebe.net. Wildwebe, WILDWEBE.net. Smoke has been present in Roseburg and surrounding communities in the area. Air Resources advisors work with communities to forecast smoke and notify the public through sites like fire.airnow.gov. Fire.airnow, AIRNOW.gov. Okay. Lightning that passed through Oregon the night of August 24th left a mark on the forest. There are currently 11 fires and 2 other small ones. I've got all kinds of report links. If anybody wants to research them, I can give those to you. And there's PDFs all over the place. Let's see here on other fire information. I think that's probably all that we have there. Space Force Alice says wildfires in Louisiana. I hope it's contained. So do I. I heard about that earlier. Crete Island in Greece is being hit with one earthquake after the other. Relatively small quakes. Again, that's not too surprising because there's a huge earthquake fault that runs from over in Turkey where those earthquakes are still hitting the area. Over 70 earthquakes there today. And that earthquake fault that runs out of Turkey all the way through the ocean there runs over and around to Crete. So it doesn't surprise me that we have earthquakes around Crete today. Again, USGS doesn't show any of it, which is sad. Okay? That's a sad day. Rarely do they ever have earthquakes there unless all of a sudden, for some reason, they decide, oh, I think we need to talk about that. Then they decide, okay, let's do this. That's when they start talking, honestly. Okay, I have quite a few other things that I want to talk about tonight, including earthquakes in the Pacific Northwest. Okay? The first thing I'm going to do is talk about the volcanoes in Washington and down in Oregon and in Northern California. Anybody have any questions about that yet? Okay? Right now I have the Mount Baker volcano seismogram up here. This is the main seismogram. This is the first time I've seen a seismogram here in over 2 or 3 months. This seismogram site was down for a very, very long time. Space Force Alice says if Turkey goes, Italy will too. Italy didn't go when Turkey had those 8.0, 9.0 earthquakes a few months back. That seismic energy did spread, and yes, Italy has been getting hit with anywhere from, I want to say, maybe 35 to 40 earthquakes a day, north to south, east to west. The majority of them are in central Italy, though. And they're just 1.0s, 1.5s, 1.7s, and such. Okay? Yes, occasionally we have a 2 or a 3, but that's rare in Italy right now, anyway. Anyway, here we have Mount Baker. This is the main site for Mount Baker. Okay? We have some minor earthquakes and just tiny tremors here, literally. All we see here below that on the bottom part of this seismogram are solid lines. If we have a long vertical line that has a dot in the middle of it, it would become an earthquake. If it's a solid vertical line with nothing else on it, that is a steam signal. A steam signal. Now, down here at the bottom, I want to show you this. This is what really can tell us what is going on here at Mount Baker, at least when it comes to earthquakes at the volcano. What you see here is a very tiny magma churn signal. The magma churn signal pops out when there's very superheated magma at a volcano. Usually the magma churn signals are anywhere from 23 to 24 lines high. This is the interesting thing about this one. This one is 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 lines high. This is not even 25% of real world. So the seismologists have turned this seismogram all but off. It's not showing much of anything here. So the events that did happen, here. Okay, let's go up here closer to the top here. See that earthquake here on the black line? Imagine that to be 4 times that size. Now we're talking probably close to a 3.0 earthquake. A 3.0 earthquake. And the one to the left? A 2.5, 2.8 earthquake. These other lines appear to be just nothing more than steam signals. But I have something in store for you guys. Something fun in store for you guys. Because there's a lot more to this than they have shown here. Let's go over to Mount Shuksan. Shuksan is a ski resort on the side of Mount Baker. I'm going to reduce this thing in size so you can truly see what's going on here. Okay? What I want to show you here, guys, this particular site shows very low frequency waves, meaning when the magma is coming into the volcano, it produces VLF waves, very low frequency waves, and even up at the top you start seeing these VLF waves here. Okay? And they continue very light. They continue very light past midnight last night. This seismogram started at 5 p.m. yesterday afternoon. And you can see where it says 00 over here on the left. That's midnight. That's midnight. Well, folks, sometime after 7 a.m., the magma starts hurrying its way into the volcano. It gets excited, if that can be a word used when it's around magma. We got more and more magma coming into Mount Baker here. And you can see these lines here got very wild at one point in time. Then, right when that earthquake hit down in Indonesia, you can see that it was recorded right here. Yes, a 7.4 earthquake that hit Indonesia can be found on any seismogram, unless the agency deletes it. And they do that all the time as well. So you can see the magma coming into Mount Baker. And you can see the 7.4 earthquake down in Indonesia here at the bottom of this seismogram. Okay? Mount Baker, ladies and gentlemen, that's just south of the Canadian border. Mount Baker is located just south of the Canadian border. Now, just so you know, the Pacific Northwest Seismic Network, the University of Washington, and the USGS just put up another seismogram at Mount Baker. This is it here. They call it Baker West. Baker West. I believe they're just trying it out here, because most of the crap here is just that. It's called abstract. Abstract. All these ziggy-zaggy weird lines here, it's abstract. It is, however, showing us some earthquakes at Mount Baker. Earthquakes that are not on that other seismograph. This is Baker West. Okay? This is probably a seismograph on the west side of the mountain, west side of the volcano. That would be a first. Okay? But you can see these small earthquakes. At least they appear to be small. Okay? The one in the center there is like a 2.0, 2.2 earthquake, minor earthquake. The one up the top left in blue, probably a 2.2 as well. Go down to the one below that in the red, another 2.2, maybe 2.3, and so on here. Just minor earthquakes. We don't have a magma churn signal, at least on this seismogram, to see what's going on. See really how far they turn this seismograph down. And they could have turned them all down. Okay? USGS does that all the time. Now, I did not find anything at Glacier Peak today, so I'm skipping over Glacier Peak and going right to Mount Rainier. It's a good thing. Mount Rainier is one of my favorite things to do. I monitor Rainier like I watch a clock. Okay? Gotta know what's going on. Folks, this is Camp Muir. This is Mount Rainier, Camp Muir. Okay? Up at the top, you see that this seismograph started recording the seismic energy, the seismic events, just after 10 p.m. last night. So you're seeing all these tremors and minor earthquakes. All kinds of them, huh? If you see any vertical lines without a dot in the middle of it, those are, like I said, phases where we have steam exiting the volcano. And yes, there's a lot of steam here. You can see these minor earthquakes, okay, on each of the horizontal lines. Some horizontal lines might be thicker than others. You're going to see lines that are thin and become thicker and get thinner again. Those are called magma pulse signals. Magma pulse signals. That happens when all of a sudden there's a variance in magma coming into the volcano. It can start small and get larger, or go from larger to smaller volumes of magma. So we have magma pulse signals here. But you can see that Mount Rainier is indeed getting hit with earthquakes. A bunch of earthquakes today. Most of them very minor. I don't see any major earthquakes at all here at Mount Rainier. At least none on this seismogram. But that doesn't mean they don't exist. Let's go look at Camp Sherman. Good old Camp Sherman. I just love Mount Rainier. Most of these volcanoes have like 8 or 10 seismographs around them. Mount Rainier is one of those. However, there are some seismographs that don't work, or they may be turned off, or they may not show true information. Okay? That happens a lot. On this particular seismogram, this is Camp Sherman. Camp Muir is on the west side. Camp Sherman is on the north side. Okay? Up here at the top, what's that? That's another magma churn signal. Okay? A very thin rectangle there. A very thin rectangle. Now, I'm going to try to enlarge this a little bit. I'll bring it back down here. Okay? Let's count how many lines this magma churn signal is. Okay? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lines high. This is maybe 26% of real world. 26% of real world. So the seismologist turned down this seismograph. Turned it way down. Out to the right side of that magma churn signal, you see these vertical lines. Those represent steam. Superheated magma produces steam. How? 6 to 7% of all magma is water. 6 to 7% of all magma is water. And when that water heats up to 2,000, 3,000 degrees, what happens? It turns to steam, doesn't it? Most invariably. Water will boil at, say, 180 degrees. This is 2,000 plus degrees. It's no small wonder we have a magma churn signal here. But if that magma churn signal is small enough, we're not going to see hardly anything going on. Like I said, counting the lines here on the magma churn signal, we're able to see exactly what they've done to this seismograph. Have they turned it down or have they left it alone? 9 times out of 10, you're going to see this seismograph being turned way, way down. Most seismographs are. Rarely do we ever see an accurate seismograph because the people that run it turn it down. Heaven forbid that we know true information of what's going on. That's what's going on here at Camp Sherman. We see vertical lines all over. Most of the time we have a dot in the middle of those vertical lines. That is a tremor and or an earthquake. Okay? Let's continue on. Oh my gosh, all of a sudden the lines got thicker here. More and more magma pouring into this volcano. And what do we see when that happens? More vertical lines, huh? The vertical lines tell us that that magma coming in is under pressure. It's causing earth fracturing to going on. It's fracturing the rock inside the volcano, causing magma uplift, volcanic uplift. Yes, the volcano is rising. It rises at the rate of maybe 2 inches a year. Not a lot when you think about it, but over a lifetime, that's a lot of energy causing that volcano to rise. Now, you see these tiny lines here, and longer vertical lines as well. Earthquakes keep hitting here because the magma is fracturing the rock inside the volcano. Yes, we get earthquakes here and tremors. That's what we see here. Look at this. How about that? We have a magma churn signal here. This one's here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 lines high. Woohoo! Like 28% of real world. 28% of real world. So folks, this isn't half bad. Okay? Just over 1/3 of these lines are even close to correct. It's only showing us 1/3 of total reality. Okay? Mount Rainier is active, guys. Mount Rainier is very active. I want to show you something. I pulled information on the earthquakes that hit Mount Rainier today. Okay, where'd it go? Where'd it go? Where'd it go? Where'd it go? Okay, this is Sunday. This is the activity at Mount Rainier Sunday. Let me bring it down here. Look at that. These were earthquakes and tremors that hit on Mount Rainier on Sunday. Most of these were on the western side of the volcano. On the western side of the volcano. Folks, we had nearly 3.0 earthquakes here. 2 of them. 2 3.0 earthquakes. One was 2.87, the other was 2.97. Basically 2 3.0 earthquakes. The rest are tremors here at Mount Rainier. We are having earthquakes here. We are seeing earthquakes here at Mount Rainier, as we are at all of the volcanoes. Don't ever let it be said we're not. The volcanoes are all very active. At any one time, folks, sorry, just gotta get something great. At any one time, any one of these volcanoes could actually erupt. That's how close we are to an eruption at either Mount Rainier or even Mount St. Helens. Sorry. Let's go take a look at Mount St. Helens now. Okay? I want to show you Helens. Helens is getting to be a big deal. I want to show you East Dome Mount St. Helens first. Okay? Let me Okay, guys, this is Mount St. Helens East Dome. This is at the summit of the volcano, guys. Okay? This seismogram started recording at 10 p.m. last night. Look at the earthquakes here. Look at all that activity here. Okay, this is wild. Look at all that activity here. We're having 2.9, 3.0 earthquakes. Look at those arrows going out to the right. Those aren't arrows, guys. Those are actually secondary waves of the earthquake. Secondary waves of the earthquake. Look at how long those earthquakes were lasting. Okay? Look at the width of those earthquakes. Lasting upwards of 60 seconds, 30 to 60 seconds. Okay? They may have been even larger than they're being shown here. Let's see if we have a magma churn signal here. Yes, we do. Right over here on the right-hand side. Let's count the lines here. Magma churn signal should be typically 23 to 24 lines high. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines high. Folks, this is maybe 30% of real world. 1/3 of real world. 1/3 of real world. So folks, what we're seeing here on these earthquakes, multiply times 3. Now we're talking probably 3.5 or larger earthquakes. The secondary waves say a lot as well. That tells me that these earthquakes you see here at the top of this seismogram that actually happened last night and early this morning were large earthquakes at Mount St. Helens this time. Look at that. If you live in or around any of these volcanoes, you have seen and have felt the earthquakes and tremors around these volcanoes. You have felt them. Okay? I don't know whether I would want to be around any one of these volcanoes anywhere close to them. We know what happened in 1980 when this volcano erupted the last time. Actually, it wasn't the last time because we also had a very minor eruption like 2003-2004 time period. Okay? But 1980 was a huge blast and it killed people. Okay? You're seeing earthquakes here. You're seeing earthquakes. The very small ones are tremors. See those lines up to the right of that magma churn signal? Those are steam signals. Down below it and just to the left of there, that line here has a curlicue on it. That is an actual steam signature. That's an actual steam signature here. So Mount St. Helens is also putting off a lot of steam. And you usually can see that at the volcano when you look at it. It's usually steaming. Sometimes more so than others. But as we get into the morning, we see less and less earthquakes. But this afternoon, what are we seeing here? It seems like they're ramping up. Okay? They're ramping up. Look at this one over on the far right-hand side. It continues over here at the left, just after 5:15, 5:30 this evening. Okay? The width of this tells me this is at least a 3.0 earthquake. The length would tell me a 2.5. But we already saw that magma churn signal, knowing that it's 3 to 4 times as high. Okay? These earthquakes are 3 to 4 times the length of these things. Okay? That magma churn signal is supposed to be 24 lines high. It's only 6. You got 25% of the world. That's pretty sad. They don't want us to see what's going on. It's very apparent. It's very apparent what they're showing us here. Okay? That's just East Dome, Mount St. Helens. There's something else very crazy here. And I have some answers. Over at Mount St. Helens, there is another channel on that seismograph. It's another channel on the seismograph that allows us to see the magma coming into the volcano. Just like it showed you over at Mount Baker, usually there's got to be a seismograph someplace that will show us some magma coming into the volcano. Look at this. Okay? This seismogram comes from the Pacific Northwest Seismic Network. If we see these red seismograms, it comes from the Pacific Northwest Seismic Network. This one does. But one of the channels on that seismograph shows us the VOF wave activity of the magma. This seismogram started recording at 5 p.m. yesterday afternoon. Guess what? Remember seeing that other seismogram showing us earthquakes and tremors? Look what happened at just after midnight here. The magma really starts pouring into this volcano, doesn't it? By late night last night, after midnight, you can see the velocity of the magma pouring into this volcano. That's why you saw so many earthquakes on that other seismogram. This shows you that Mount St. Helens is very, very active. A lot of magma coming into this volcano. That's why I love going over to this one channel. The seismograph is called SCP. It's a spider. It's a spider. Folks, let me show you something. Sometimes at volcanoes, we see a seismograph with a bunch of legs underneath it, holding the seismograph up off the volcanic rock that it's sitting on at the summit of the volcano. That's what this particular seismograph is. It's got a bunch of legs underneath it, holding the seismograph off the dirt, the volcanic rock. So when that volcano starts shaking, the seismograph has the instruments on board that can tell us what is going on. And that's what this one does at the spider, at SCP. Okay? That's what this is telling us. Okay? I love Mount St. Helens because, folks, they always try to hide information from us at Mount St. Helens. Oh, nothing's going on. If you go digging at any one of these volcanoes, you don't know what you're going to turn up. I know you're going to turn up more activity than they want to say there is, because they don't want to even let people know what's going on. Any one of these volcanoes we're talking about tonight could erupt. They could erupt. Rainier, Mount St. Helens, Mount Hood, Sisters Volcano, and Crater Lake could erupt literally at any time. There is enough going on to show us they could erupt at any one time. No joke. Okay? So that is SCP September Lobe. It's a spider. Okay? Look at this. This is Sugar Bowl at Mount St. Helens. We're seeing those earthquakes, aren't we? This proves beyond a shadow of a doubt what SCP is showing us. The VOF wave activity of the magma. Look what's here. Look what's here. We have just as much activity now, this afternoon, as we did earlier. We have a good sized earthquake here. This is probably a 3.5, 4.0 earthquake at Mount St. Helens today, this afternoon. Let me enlarge this so you can see it. Look at that earthquake here. That's not a tremor, that's a full-blown earthquake. And it's larger than they're saying. They'll never be honest with us and let us know exactly how strong these earthquakes are. They hide it. But what you're seeing here are these horizontal lines that are thicker, showing us more and more magma coming into the magma chamber. And with it, you see the magma that is causing rock fracturing inside the volcano. In this case, it must have come in under pressure, which it does, and it must have hit a great big huge rock that fractured, causing a good sized earthquake. Probably close to a 4.0 earthquake at Mount St. Helens today, as well as these other smaller ones as well. No joke. Unreal. Let's go briefly over to Mount Hood. I'm going over to Timberline now. I want you to see what's going on at Timberline. Timberline is on the lower southern part of Mount Hood. This is a Pacific Northwest Seismic Network seismogram. This seismogram started recording at 5 p.m. yesterday afternoon. Look what we have here. Look at the activity here at Mount Hood. We have a lot of magma coming into the magma chamber, don't we? All kinds of it. Over here, see that blue line, that thick blue line there? Yes, sometimes we have thicker lines and they get thinner there. That is a lot of magma just after 1:30 this morning. It completely fills up that whiteness between the the red and the blue line, doesn't it? Fills it up. Then it gets thinner, and then it gets thicker again, and gets thinner, and gets thicker again, and gets thinner again. Okay? That's how magma works. You see other markings on these lines here. Earthquakes. As the magma is coming in under pressure, fracturing the rock inside the volcano, causing tremors and earthquakes. That's what's actually going on here at Timberline. And we're running out of time. I want to talk about a couple other volcanoes right now before we get out of here. I'm going to drop down to Sisters Volcano. We're starting to get a lot of thunder going on here, and I believe we're getting some heavy rain with it. So I want to get out of here, turn off my equipment before it gets too bad. This is Sisters Volcano. We've seen a lot of information going on at Sisters before. A lot of seismic activity. We're seeing some here, but it's not as severe today as it has been in the past. Meaning there's less and less activity because the amount of magma has calmed down at Sisters Volcano. About a year ago, they said that they were thinking that Sisters volcanoes may erupt at any time. This is south of Mount Hood in Oregon. Sisters volcanoes. It's just not one volcano, it's a complex of 3 volcanoes. Sisters North, Sisters Central, and Sisters South. 3 volcanoes monitored by one seismograph. Does it make sense? Because each one of those volcanoes could erupt. Okay? Each one or all 3. That has happened before. Alright, that's Sisters Volcano. One more, and then I think we're going to call it quits for the night. This one I'm going to show you now, folks, is a very interesting seismograph. This is Crater Lake. Crater Lake. Let me show you this, guys. I want to show you this because this is a picture of Crater Lake in Oregon. This is in south central Oregon. See the walls of this volcano? This lake is huge. The island there you see is actually the plug of the volcano. Every volcano has a plug, a big, huge volcanic rock. In this case, that rock juts out in the middle of what is a lake now. Groundwater and rain and snow has caused this lake to rise in the past. Now it's an alpine lake in Oregon. The volcano is an alpine lake in Oregon now. It's a beautiful area, as you see. It's absolutely gorgeous. But again, it's a volcano. Look at this. This is just one seismogram. Now, I've told you before what they do. They show us a lot of activity, then they turn the seismograph off. And that's pretty much what they've done here. Again, this seismograph started recording information just after 10 p.m. Just after 1:30, 1:45, they turned the seismograph all the way down. It does not record any appreciable information all day, all morning. It went all night last night from about 1:45 this morning until down here just after 2 p.m. today. There's got to be a law against that. The agency should be penalized for doing that. This volcano could erupt at any time as well. Judging by all the activity we see here, and I will bet you there's just as much activity that we can't see, because the agency doesn't want us to see it. Look at all that activity. We had all that activity before we got down to here. So from 2:30, from 2:30 until tonight, all that energy happened. Up here it happened last night. They don't much care for anything. One of these days, these volcanoes are going to erupt. And people like myself and you that are interested in knowing what is going on are not going to see it coming. And that's when all heck is going to break loose. And there will be an eruption. And people are going to get hurt. Because they don't care. Because they don't care. Folks, it's already after 9 p.m. Eastern Time. It's time for some people to go to nighty-night. So we're going to get out of here. Do you guys have any questions? Tomorrow we'll start reporting more about Hurricane Idalia and give you more information about what's going on with volcanoes and earthquakes. But I will be talking about Hurricane Idalia for sure tomorrow. Because tomorrow evening it should be hitting the Florida coast, or about to hit the Florida coast, depending on how fast it travels. I appreciate each and every one of you for being here. Folks, just so you know, they keep deleting people's subscriptions. They keep knocking you off the subscription list here for our channel. Make sure you're still subscribed here. We keep finding more and more subscribers not here any longer. Make sure you check your subscription. When you do, make sure you also click on that little bell that's in the middle of a tiny circle. When you click on that bell, there'll be a drop-down menu of 3 items. Click on the word ALL, all. That should get you subscribed and notified when we come on the air. We usually come on the air between 6 and 7 p.m. every night, Monday through Friday. On Saturdays, we try to take it off unless there's something going on that people should know about. Then we come on the air. Just like we come on the air late at night sometimes because something has happened. We will be doing that. Probably with this hurricane. Folks, check your subscriptions. Make sure you're still subscribed to this program. Also, we have two PayPal locations at the top of this program description that you see here, right below this program today, right below the video. Two PayPal locations. You can donate to our program to keep seeing quality information like you get from us every day. There's also a Venmo location. You can contribute on PayPal and or Venmo. You also have seen our address go up. Our wonderful mods here have put our address up for a lot of reasons. You can send us cards and letters. We love the cards and letters. Keep them coming. People also send money, checks and cash in your letters to us. Just make sure your cash, if you put it in an envelope, it's wrapped in a letter to us. I love reading letters here. If you have a card, it's easy to slip something into that card. Make sure it's sealed up. I've only had one issue in over 4 years, but I really appreciate each and every one of you. Our address is P.O. Box 422, Valdese, Valdese, North Carolina. Zip code is 28690. 28690. I appreciate each and every one of you. Folks, yesterday when I was messing around after our program, Sunday school yesterday afternoon, I found some music I thought you guys might be interested in. I found what I'm going to use as my closing tonight, my devotional to you. This music is called If the Savior Stood By Me, by the Salt Lake Tabernacle Choir and Orchestra. I hope you really enjoy this. I certainly did. It will leave you with the spirit of love and contentment. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, the Salt Lake Tabernacle at Choir at Temple Square in Salt Lake City. This is a wonderful message.
If the Savior stood beside me, would I do the things I do? Would I think of His commandments such an order to be true? Would I follow His example? Would I live more righteously if I could see the Savior standing by? Savior stood beside me.